Hi there, and welcome to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Welcome, do join us. Please do subscribe to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I really will appreciate your support. Let's continue to build this platform. It is something we really need to help us, navigate through a lot of what is going on in Nigeria. The long-term goal for me personally is for us to achieve Yoruba nation, but via democratic means. That is to say, a referendum. Nigeria is not working. It's evidenced by the fact that 4 refineries for a nation, the third largest nation in the world producing oil, has not one single refinery working for over 15, 20, 12 years now. And we're having to import processed petrol at exorbitant prices, in making the lives of our people unbearable. Is evidence enough that Nigeria is not working, and we need to the people have the right to self-determination. The fact that we have no electricity in 24 years of this democracy is yet more evidence of why we are justified in going for self-determination. But whilst we are still in Nigeria, we're going to be advocating for the people to be able to express their sovereignty, as stated in the Constitution, Section 14(2)(a) of the Nigerian Constitution states, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this Constitution, derives all its powers and authority. That's what it states within that Constitution. As fraudulent as it is, that is a powerful tool that we can use. Secondly, it is backed up by 14(2)(c). The participation by the people in the government have been in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution, one of which is, and very, very centrally, is that we, the people, are the sovereign, from whom the government, through this Constitution, derives its powers and authority. Section 14(2)(a) again. So you can see now that that is the area we need to focus on collectively. But before we do that, we're going to park the issue with the Nigerian government to one side. And let's now focus and concentrate on what the EU are doing. Now, not the EU and, of course, the colonials. I prefer to call them colonials, because the EU and the UK, believe you me, they're working together, just like they did back in the Berlin Conference of 1884. They're doing the same thing again. They appear to be heading on different paths, but they are in the same. They are locked in step. They are locked in step. And everything they're doing is designed to undermine and ensure that there is no progress in that in Africa, and indeed all the nations, because they want ultimate control. And how they derive control is divide and rule. So what is going on now? And those who are playing this game don't understand. Either side need to understand that a game is being played. I'm not for either side. The elections, as it is what it is. It is wrong. It is not right. There are a lot of things wrong. But the people who are now saying, "Oh, the elections is not fair and fair" in the EU are the ones in EU and in the UK, in the colonials. They are the ones who supported the unjust and unfair system. When we were calling for self-determination, we were castigated, and now they're now saying, "Oh, no, it's wrong. The system is wrong." Well, that is what they wanted to put in place, so they can continue to divide and rule. I think it's important we understand that. For me now, it now goes beyond whether or not this election was free and fair. Because what they're trying to use is, by creating the division, they're not interested in a fair governance. Because in a fair governance, they will not have access to our resources. And that is the point that many of us has missed. Let me say that again slowly. In a fair and a just governance, they will not have unfettered access to our resources, which they currently do, due to the division among ourselves as Africans. That's the point that's been made here. So once you understand that, you can now understand that whatever pronouncements that the EU or UK makes about democracy, it's all about self-interest. Their self-interest, not ours, at our expense. So I'm going to play this video here. I am playing it from that point of view. I'm not for either the Peter Obi or the Tinubu or Atiku. None of that. Because whoever is in governance, the question still remains that the Constitution is a fraud, and it is flawed, and it is not functioning. Thankfully, we've got 1 or 2 areas that the people can use to begin to hold their governance to account. But there's a lot of work to be done. So when I'm putting this down, so you can give you a proper context of how I'm playing this. So don't think that when you're watching this that I'm supporting either side or the other. We need to understand and look at the bigger picture of what is being played by the colonials on African soil, including Africa, including Nigeria. They are about exploitation, domination, and prevention of ourselves developing a manufacturing base. They do not want us to be competitors. Yet we are the ones from whom they are extracting the resources at pittance, at dirt cheap prices, according to Professor Howard Nicholas. Those are his words. We need to really understand what is going on. Now let's listen to this for a few minutes. I'll call back.
Singing songs of solidarity, members of a civil society coalition marched through the streets of Abuja to register their displeasure with the report of the European Union criticizing the 2023 general elections. The peaceful march terminates at the headquarters of the European Union, where leaders of the group addressed officials of the Union.
We have come to register unequivocally that we are not satisfied with the report of the European Union. As a matter of fact, we are of the opinion that the report is not just ridiculous, but a deliberate act to slight the Nigerian entity, and of course, by implication, our leaders and the government of Nigeria.
Particularly now that we are grappling with fundamental issues of insecurity. There is no way European Union will beat her chest and say she's in love with Nigeria and she's in love in seeing the progress of this country, and also at the same time come to add salt to injury. It shouldn't be.
With a promise from the political advisor at the union to relay the message of the protesters, the group take their leave. At a separate event, the inter-party...
So, that is one side of that discussion, of course. I.e., I've said what I needed to say there. We need to look at the picture from a wider point of view, from a totality, rather than one singular aspect. It is important to understand that the Western world are intent on ensuring that African nations and, in fact, African peoples remain divided for them to continue the exploitation of our resources at dirt cheap prices. This is a fact. It's not me just saying it. Just type the name Professor Howard Nicholas and you will hear his words. These are people, this is the system that they put in place, and increasingly China is joining in that game. It is time that Africa begins to look at itself and really rouse ourselves from our slumber and begin to really take center stage in Africa. We're not going to interfere in any other country around the world or continent around the world. As Africans, we must ensure that our resources begin to benefit our people first and foremost. That is the most important priority for us. To date, the colonial construct on African soil is preventing Africans from benefiting from the resources beneath our feet. We are seen as people meddlesome in our own land by foreigners, and they call themselves experts in our land, and when we go to Europe, we are called aliens or whatever they call them, migrants. So these are the things, the context in which we need to look at this issue. But let's broaden the subject a little bit more. Let's go ahead to talk about the election proper. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like I said, it's not the only country that's done that. UK, in the US, the presidential elections, in two times, Al Gore versus George Bush, Hillary Clinton versus Trump. In both cases, the elections went the wrong way than the person who really won the number of votes and all that. Electoral votes and electoral college and all of that stuff, and all of those things. So I mean, they came to play, and it is what it is. I'm not saying it's perfect, and I think that this is probably an opportunity for us now to really look at everything else. And I think we have an age-old system of governance that worked in the Oyo Empire. There's nothing wrong in looking at that, and actually maybe we're drafting something that's more suitable to us as Africans. That's another short story for another time, but it's just something to touch on briefly. Now let's listen to this election situation now. Let's see how things develop. We are just putting this out so that people, at least you are aware of what's been said. The election is what it is, and for me personally, I don't see how President Tinubu will be taken off that position, because all the parties are generally accepted to have been in some way or form, interfered in the electoral process. INEC has failed woefully. There is no doubt about that. There's nobody. There is no cloth. There is no cloth to cover the backside that can cover the backside of INEC. INEC made all the promises that they will follow and they will allow the actual information technology to actually drive the true fairness, true and fair elections. But they did everything but that. I mean, they made sure of everything else except for that system to function and give a true reflection of the results. And particularly, certainly, as evidence of what happened in the presidential elections. Now, for me, it's not for me to say which side one or the other, because I think the entire system is corrupt and we need a complete reset button. And I'll even go to so far as to say the name Nigeria must be something we scrubbed off our land and our minds. But that's again for something else, for later on. Let's now listen to the story. In that context, I am only reporting the story. I'm not taking any side on this. It is what it is. I just don't see how this idea of sort of saying and removing President Tinubu or saying they will run elections. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Nobody has a crystal ball, but hey, that's how I look at it as. So let's listen for a few minutes.
Advisory Council aligns with the protesters as they believe INEC deserves commendation for conducting credible elections.
IPAC is of the opinion that the 2023 general election was one of the most meticulously prepared for in recent times. Also, the unprecedented enthusiasm demonstrated by the Nigerian youth who trooped out in their numbers despite structural and procedural challenges were largely responsible for some of the positive developments. INEC should be praised for technological innovations introduced, especially in the accreditation of voters using the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, which has generally been scored very high by voters.
The European Union Election Observation Mission to Nigeria had in its final report faulted the 2023 general election, stating violence, killing, and vote buying as some of the...
I would like to say at this point that it's a pity that they came to that conclusion without acknowledging the flaws in what INEC did, because that would have provided an opportunity for us to actually say, right, okay, there are certain things that they did well. Yes, they can mention the local elections, the state and the House of Reps and all of that. But when it came to presidential elections, the system failed, and they should have pointedly stated that there and then. That would have been a fair reflection, in my own opinion. But hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't see how the election will be rerun. I just don't see it. But that's just my own take. I don't know what your thoughts are. Let's listen on.
Factors for its criticism.
Every step taken by this administration should reflect, with this president, at least until cases are concluded, should reflect the reality of the economic situation of the country, especially as it affects the majority of Nigerian citizens. The Constitution of Nigeria allowed for nominations from 36 states. I do not think we should go beyond that in recognition of the stark economic hardship that is confronting our people. The Brigadier Presidential Campaign Organization hereby condemn vehemently the negative and jaundiced responses on the EU report and other election observers' reports by the spokesperson of the APC administration and other ill-informed persons which are totally in discord with the mood of the nation at this time. Like has done it done.
You see, this is what I mean. We need to be able to understand when the EU and the West are playing a game. When they play a game, they've taken the center stage now. Now we are forced to take, this side or that side. And that creates a division among ourselves. There are certain things that we need to do behind the scenes, as it were, and make sure that we begin to provide a united front as Africans. That is something that we need to really build on, because we are allowing them to be able to pick things and take sides and keep us divided. This goes beyond the elections now. So that's my take on it. I can understand what you're saying, but there are things we need to really understand. We have to read between the lines. When the EU, with tacit support of the UK, I can assure you, with tacit support of the UK, they are all working together for the goal of keeping division so they can continue to exploit our resources. That is the game that is being played. But hey, let's carry on anyway. I just wanted to just make that point.
Damage that merits, being sanctioned accordingly. Ideally, anybody who has committed the kind of gross abuse of office that INEC has committed should resign. But we are in Nigeria where all things. So that of CBN and EFC will remain a selective approach to justice. If INEC, whose wrongdoing actually has greater consequences, for the well-being of the nation.
So there we have that segment. I wanted to just touch on that really briefly. They might come and talk about it. I might cover the other bit of it in another section. That was by Channels News, by the way. Just wanted to just give you, so you can have a bit of an idea. I mean, I think there's not much else to say in terms of the elections. I think we, the people, I want to really reiterate this point. And I think at every opportunity in the broadcast that I do from here on, I want to make sure that people, we, the people, citizens, know the power we possess, and begin to ensure that those powers are repeatedly, exercised as should be the case. At this point, we cannot trust the system. We cannot trust any part of the current system to work for and indeed on behalf of us, the citizens, for our benefit. Labour Party, PDP, APC will work for, they will remain working for their personal interests. That is just how the system is being designed, and that is why we are calling for a restructuring, not restructuring, a referendum on this constitution with a clause, a referendum clause in there to decide if we want to be together or not. That is central to everything that's been done here. Now, until such a time that let me rephrase that. Right now, our focus as citizens mustn't be on what they are saying in their meetings and the discussions, because they're trying to the same game that the Western world powers are playing with the African leaders and the nations that they created by force. They create division and and divide and rule. Our governance is doing the same thing. They're learning the same old negative trait of, instead of actually doing the bidding of the citizens and fulfilling the promises they made, they come up with this division tactics, and at the end they benefit themselves as they focus on their personal interest. What I want us as citizens to begin to do is to begin to share the information that you see on the screen. What you see on the screen states that 14.2a, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives its powers and authority. That means that those in government, they will not have the powers of governance without the tacit agreement of we, the people. And the power that they use to govern is derived from us. And that means that we have a role in ensuring that the government must serve our needs. And the best way we can do that is through active participation in our governance. We can no longer be bystanders in our own governance. We have to play an active role in our governance on a daily basis, monitoring their actions, starting from local government areas or local government councils, whereby we go and check the monthly Federal Account Allocation Committee figures that they receive. Begin to track that. We must do this collectively within our communities. The powers in this video that you're looking at, it is more powerful than anything you can find in the Quran, than anything you can find in the Bible. We need to be able to encourage our people to use these powers, to begin to question those we elect into office on a range of issues, from the election malpractices to power fraud, electrical power fraud, to petrol subsidy fraud, to aviation fraud. We should be able to hold them to account. We must be using those powers, and the best way we can use those powers, the most effective way that we can use those powers, is through collective participation. That is, in our local communities, we begin to come together and use the powers that you see on the screen. It is no longer enough for us to wait that the government will do the right thing. We have been in this democracy for 24 years now, and it has given us enough evidence that those in government will never do what they promise, because they have done everything they can to ensure that our eyes are covered from really knowing what is really going on, and they've made empty promises. Now, for 24 years, many people were not aware of what you are seeing on the screen, which is sovereignty belongs to them. It is from them that the government, through this constitution, derives the powers and authority from the people. But the government says we are the government, and as soon as they say that, they say no, we have all the power. That is not the case. The citizens are the people to whom sovereignty belongs, and we have the power to exercise that sovereignty by actively participating in our governance, monitoring every action of the government, tasking ourselves collectively in every local government community and council to begin to question them on the funds that they receive and where it's going. Like I said today in my broadcast, the sad part is this: the state government and the local government are working together to oppress the citizens. They have made an arrangement whereby when they receive the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee monthly payments, when the local government receives it, they have made an arrangement with the state government that once this local government receives the money, they will transfer all of it back to the state government. All of it goes back to the state government according to the agreement. And then the state government will now dish out how they see fit, to the exclusion of the people to whom they are both serving, the citizens. And that is why we are having no infrastructure in our local government communities. We need to use the powers that you see on the screen to begin to hold them to account. Every single person watching me now, you must share this broadcast. You must take a screenshot of the powers you see on this screen and begin to share that message in all local government areas, local government communities, local government councils, and local government communities as well. Ensure that you're a member of a local government, local community association, and begin to share this information. Ensure that all local community offices have these powers on the walls of their meeting of the meeting place of the office, so that everybody coming in emblazoned big on the wall, so that nobody will be able to miss the words and be able to understand that is the role that they have. They have a powerful role. We, the citizens, are the ultimate constituted authority. We, the citizens, collectively are the ultimate constituted authority, and we need to understand and begin to exercise that. Once we begin to do that, we will be able to steer the government through our active participation. We will shine a light. We will be able to shine a light on our governance. When we shine the light, it makes it more difficult for them to carry out corrupt practices, illegal practices, malpractices, and so on, because they are going to do it in camera. That is to say, all of us, our eyes are on our government, and we are holding them accountable by actively participating in our governance. This is really important for us to do, because you see that without taking that central step for over 24 years, look at where we've been left. We've been left with religions of inertia that have just promoting inertia. The religions of Christianity and Islam have been promoting inertia in our people, without our people actually beginning to think, actually, we need to hold our governors to account, and we have the powers. Now we are taking the step to show you that. We are taking the opportunity to ask you, when you watch this broadcast, please share this broadcast. Let it reach as many people as possible. The task we face is huge and enormous, but also very simple. Because it is trying to spread the awareness of the powers that we, the citizens, collectively possess to hold our governors to account through active participation in our governance. It is really important that when you get this broadcast, don't just watch it and keep it on one side. Share it. Let it reach as many people as possible, because that is how we are going to ensure. It is through active participation that we will ensure that all our local government accounts areas will have infrastructure, because we will all be monitoring in camera. We'll be watching the movement and the action of those we elect to office, because that is our role. Our role as citizens is to actually monitor and make those we elect to office accountable to us through these powers you see on the screen. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. They derive those powers from you, and you have access to that power by working collectively, going and monitoring your monthly allocation for each of the local government area, and they are duty bound to provide answers and to do your bidding, because it is ultimately to you to which sovereignty collectively belongs to. And that is a very central point that we must reiterate to the young, to the old, to the man, to the woman, to the disabled, to the fit, everybody and everybody in between. It is a message and a task that we must not refuse. If you call yourself a Yoruba, a Igbo, a Middle Belt, or a Nigerian, this is a task that you must not refuse. You need to empower our people. And when we need, in doing this process, when such a time comes that people now go for referendum, and we indeed go for self-determination, then the people are ready. They know what it means to be a citizen, to be a sovereign in the nation. As a sovereign, your task is to hold those you put to serve you to account. You have to hold them to account. You have to make them tell you what they're doing, to explain to you where the funds are going, because that is your role. You have to you become the light in which that shines on the government, that exposes all the crimes and all of the malpractices that they're doing. That is what our role is. We have never done that in 24 years. And we need to do that, teaching our people in local languages. That's why I've translated this particular section of the Constitution into Yoruba language. I'm doing the same thing with the Igbo language, which I'm going to show in due course. I'll come back and do a program about that, because that's what we need. We need our people to understand the constitutional power they possess, particularly in their language. What has been done in 24 years is the unwillingness of the system to translate this constitution into our local languages, so that the people can be more engaged in the governance and understand what it means. And in the absence of those translations, we are taking on that task piece by piece. And that is what we're doing here. So please, when you get this broadcast, again, I'm going to ask you, don't just watch it alone. Share it. Let it reach as many people as possible, because with these powers, we can now begin to hold anybody that is in the public office to account using the powers that you see in front of you. It is in our constitution. It is enshrined in that constitution. And we must ensure that everybody knows it. Right from primary school all the way up to adult education. We must ensure that this is something that is taught and everybody knows on a daily basis, that the only way to get good accountability, good governance, the only way to get good governance is through accountability, through we the citizens collectively and actively participating in our governance, not staying in one side and going to a church and pray. May the government do what we are asking them to do. You can pray till the cows come home. They will not do it, because they know that you are not aware of these powers. Now that you are aware, the best thing we can do is to exercise that power, because it is in the Constitution. We need our people to begin to exercise those powers. Please, when you get this broadcast, do not ignore the message herein. Do share. Let it reach as many people as possible. It is time for us to build communities that is functioning through our active participation. And those communities will only function with appropriate, adequate, and functioning infrastructures that will not materialize unless we continually monitor, actively question, and indeed demand accountability from those we collectively elect to office. It is really important, these steps. I am insistent on this. It's not about violence, it's not about anything else, it's about accountability and exercising these powers that we have never exercised in 24 years of that fraudulent democracy. It is time we do so. And in doing that, it gives us more understanding and more control over our governance, and it will shine a light that will prevent corruption. The best way to tackle corruption is when everything about our governance in terms of funding is out in the open, in the public space, and ensuring that there's accountability on where the funds are going for every one of us. Then there is no room for anybody to carry out a fraudulent act, and that is what we must push for. We need those refineries functioning. We need the subsidy issue. Those who are involved, 8 trillion naira with no accountability. We now know, using the powers here, which I'm going to read again. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. 14.2a. Please memorize that. Section 14.2c. The participation by the people in the government shall be in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. Those two are powerful tools. Again, I've translated this to Yoruba, and I'll be doing the Igbo one. I don't know how to say it. I'm going to speak to one or two of my friends to come on air, and we can go through that in Igbo language. Now, that doesn't mean that we have kicked the self-determination to touch. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that we're empowering our people to know that they have a voice, and we're showing them how to use it. And then they will use that voice to now demand for self-determination clause to be inserted in the constitution. That is the step we must take. I firmly believe in democratic means to achieve our aims for the nation. Because when the voice of the people speaks and they now exercise these powers, the government will have no other choice but to listen. And that is where we really need to go. So I know it's a bit long-winded what I just said. I hope it makes sense to you. When you get the broadcast, I urge you, please, please, please share this broadcast. Help us reach as many people as possible. The message here is very, very important. When you get this message, please share. Leave comments. I urge you, don't just watch the broadcast. This information are things that people are not aware of. There are people sitting a whole day, a year, night vigil, morning vigil, all that stuff. And what they needed to know above all was the power they possess and how to use it as citizens collectively. Instead of sitting in a church day after day with no change in the infrastructural development, no change in the healthcare, no change in the roads, and just praying to nothing. Praying to nothing. It's an exercise in inertia. Religion of Christianity and Islam as practiced in Nigeria is an exercise in inertia. Inertia is a waste of exercise. You're just doing something that's meaningless, that will yield no result. That's why we're trying to wake you up. Please, these comments, the section 14.2a and 14.2c, they are the most powerful piece of information that you will ever, as a citizen, possess. And we're showing you those two because they are connected, and they are exactly, if you follow it step by step like we're just doing now, they will show you that you have the power, and it shows you how to use it. We no longer want you to be waiting for somebody to feed you fish. We want you to have the power to go and fish yourself, community by community, through active participation in your governance. That must be the way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth power. If this resonates with you and you really get the message, and I'm sure many of you are watching and you've been watching this far, do the next step for me, please. Go ahead and do something for me. I'd really be grateful if you can. Subscribe to Citizen AY. Go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY. Hit the notification button, and of course, give us the thumbs up. We really will appreciate your support. So subscribe, hit the notification button, give us a thumbs up, help us reach more people. Leave a comment, share this message. So please, 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 it is of immense importance The messages that we're sharing here, they are messages that are waking our people up, and we need it to wake you up. Because it's going to a church and praying and knowing the Bible and knowing the verse. Of what use if you knowing the Bible and the verse and the verses and everything off head, when you do not know the most important piece of information that will transform not only your life but your entire community and ensure that you would have infrastructure, which is this information? Of what use is you knowing the Quran, it's verse by verse, everything else, but not having an idea, an inkling of the power that we collectively possess as citizens, when that would actually positively impact your community by ensuring that using the powers, you can now ensure that you have infrastructure in your community. It is not going, those infrastructures will not materialize because of the promise of the government, but it's because you are monitoring them, you are holding them to account at every stage, you are shining a light on the governance. That is the only way you will have infrastructure. There's no magic to all of this stuff. It is about simply knowing and implementing and applying the constitutional powers that we have and going through it step by step as I'm showing you. Please do not ignore this message. I'm going to try and see if I can do this in Pidgin English as well, because I want to reach as many people. I'm conscious that we need to do it not only in Yoruba or Igbo, but in Pidgin English. Many people are comfortable with Pidgin. I'm going to try and see how that works. I'll do something about it, and I'll see if I can bring it together. And I might even translate it in Pidgin as well, because I really want you to get the nub of the message, because it is not enough for us to just say, share, and talk about it from those who know. We need to reach those who do not know or who don't get it. We have to reach them at that level and make them know, even without that, without the command of the language of English, they can get the information they need to live a fulfilled life. English is not a sign of an intelligence. English is not a sign of intelligence. It's only a sign of understanding a language. Intelligence is two separate things. And many people who are not able to speak English are often extremely intelligent people. But because the message has been passed to them, they don't understand. They cannot apply their intelligence because they don't understand what's been said to them. But if it's said in a language they don't understand, believe you me, they are super intelligent. Many Africans are super intelligent. But because of this language of the imposed colonial language, many of us have been lost in that trap, in that maze of trying to comply with that and trying to understand that. We've lost the idea and our know-how, our capabilities, our infinite capabilities. And I'm here to really open up that door, to really get us to really reach our true potential. We are blessed infinitely. A third of the world resources is in Africa, and yet Africa is poverty-ridden. It's by design, and we need to wake up. There is a lot of work for us all to do, but let's start with this first. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. You are one of such, and you in your community coming together, you exercise that power by participating in your governance through holding those you elect to office accountable. The participation by the people in the government shall be in accordance with the provisions of the constitution. The provisions are that you are a sovereign, and as a sovereign, you have the power to hold all elected officials to account. Let us begin to teach our people this central message. It's not about what you know in the church or in the mosque that counts. It is what you know about the constitution and how you can use the powers to hold those who are serving you to account on a daily basis that count. Let us begin to do that. Please share this message. You are watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I urge you. The message here is very, very central, very key, very important. Share the message. Thank you for listening. Do share, leave a comment. Let us hear from you. Don't just be silent watcher. Please share the message. We need this message to reach as many people, to wake up as many people. I'm going to be giving this message out in many different forms. I'm going to try and do this in Pidgin as well, and I'll bring other people on in Igbo language, because we need this information to reach all our communities, right inside our communities, to know the powers that we possess. So thank you so much for watching. You have been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back later on. Please leave a message, comment, like, share. Thank you for those of you who are subscribing. We're appreciating you. We are slowly getting there in terms of reaching the 3,000 subscribers. We are still in the 2,600 range. We'd like to get to 3,000 subscribers. So everybody that's watching, please help us get to 3,000 subscribers. We are 2,600 or thereabouts now in subscribers, and we're grateful for each and every one of you that subscribe. Please, we are trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. help us reach that milestone. We really need your support because we need to drive this forward. The message that we're trying to put out needs to reach millions of citizens, and you subscribing will help that message go far. And also it helps with the algorithms. When you share the message more, YouTube will recommend this to a lot more people, and we need it to be recommended to more Nigerian citizens to know the power they possess, because for so long we've been blinded by the religion of Islam and Christianity. Now it's time for us to wake up. This message here is very, very important. When you get this message, please do share. Thank you so much for watching. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. How about later on? Please share the message and leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching. Back soon. Bye for now.